I want to talk about that moment when you realize that everything you thought was true was a lie. What's up, guys? Angela here with Raise the Collective, Reiki Master, personal trainer, intuitive, and light worker. My mission is to help awaken as many people as possible. My very first video that I ever shot and shared with you guys was called Welcome to Awakening. In that video, I discussed the events or the ways in which I began going through my own spiritual awakening and what kind of brought me to where I am today. So there's this beautiful aspect to this awakening journey, right? Where we realize that we're all connected and we realize that there's this life force behind everything and we realize how powerful we are. Well, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today I want to talk about the shadowy sides of awakening, right? The other kind of awakening, a more third dimensional portion of reality and awakening. And what happens is we come into the realization that what we have been led to believe, or much of what we've been led to believe, is actually false. So in this video, I would like to share with you my experience that has awakened me to the corruption, the manipulation, and the flat-out lies that we experience from our higher ups, right? From this hierarchy of government and doctors and actors and actresses and all of these things. So for me, I thought there was only that one side of awakening, that spiritual side of awakening, until I started following the Democratic debates back in 2019. Now, mind you, I have always been a hardcore Democrat. It's the way I was raised, right? I was raised to believe that the Democratic Party was the party of people of color and homosexuals, right? I'm both. I resonate with both of those energies, so I've always been taught that they were the ones who wanted to implement the greatest good. I've been taught to believe that the other side is a little crazy, a little cruel, a little judgmental. We don't want to connect with the other side, right? So as I'm watching these debates in 2019, there was a candidate named Marianne Williamson. Some of you may have heard of her. She wrote the book Return to Love. So she was a person who appeared to be more on the spiritual, energetic side of things. So I instantly clung to her. And I'm like, yes, finally, the world is going to realize that they can heal themselves, right? Humanity is going to wake up to the fact that we can heal ourselves, that we have these supernatural abilities about us, right? The world is going to start changing. Racism is going to start going away. All of these things are going to start shifting if only this particular candidate can get elected, right? That was my perception at the time. So I was all in. I watched every single debate. I watched everything about everything, right? There were 19 candidates, and I sat from start to finish. And what I started realizing was that there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that didn't resonate with me on a moral level, right? So I began to notice the way that the rules would be manipulated and changed when a certain candidate would start to progress with the public, right? And specifically with Marianne Williamson, she pretty much blew everyone away with the very first debate. So I took notice of what happened after that, what came out on the media bashing this woman, making her out to be this crazy crystal lady who was going to heal the world with essential oils. Now, granted, I love my crystals and I love my essential oils, but I understand that that's not what politics is about, right? So I was a bit offended at the way that they were presenting her to the media, and her ratings dropped. People stopped following her. Nobody took her serious after that. And then I started clinging to Bernie Sanders because I'm like, okay, he's the next best thing. He wants to help everyone, right? Because as being the founder of Raise the Collective, my purpose here is to assist in raising all of humanity up to a higher state of existence, right? And if we have people living in poverty and strung out on drugs and that nature, they're not living at their highest potential. So, as a collective, we need to come together to shift that. And at that point in time, I really believed that the way to do so was to have good leaders in place. So then I watched as, Bernie Sanders started to kind of take the lead. And then I watched as they shut him down. And by they, I mean the Democratic Party, or maybe someone that is above the party that kind of initiates things, tells people what to do, passes the note down. Anyhow, he was pretty much eliminated because 2 other candidates dropped out so that Joe Biden could be in the lead. I pretty much watched as Joe Biden was constantly pushed to the center and pushed to the center and pushed to the front line, really, not to the center. He was pushed up front from the very beginning. And what I realized is that from the very beginning, there was no race. There was never a race. They knew exactly who the candidate was going to be, and they were going to ensure that that happened no matter what. And what they did to get people like me to want to vote for him is they said, vote blue no matter who. We have to get rid of Donald Trump. He's basically the devil. He's this evil person. He's all these things. And if you tuned into the news, CNN and other news channels, you would see this awful, hateful man making fun of people and just dishing hate and dishing hate and dishing hate. So, there was a lot of fear, especially with the African American community and a lot of the Spanish community. Like, they really feared this man. They really hated this man. The way that he was portrayed in the media made people really hate him, just like Marianne Williamson was portrayed in a way that made people think she was crazy. So I just kind of took note of all of that, right? And then I decided, I'm really going to continue to view things in their entirety so that I can make my own decisions. Because at this point, I kind of stopped trusting the mainstream media, right? I started realizing, like, red flag, And then, mind you, so I started going in and watching Donald Trump's speeches and things like that. And I did notice there was still a lot of hatred, but not to the extreme that it was being portrayed in the media. And then I realized, maybe he's just really frustrated with the media. And then I realized this term that he kept throwing out, fake news, fake news, fake news. And as I heard that, I'm like, wait a minute. I've been experiencing fake news. This guy's been experiencing fake news. What's the deal with this fake news? Awakening. Realizing that not everything is what it seems, that everything that comes through the television or comes through these people, everything they tell you is not necessarily true. They tend to put their spin on things, right? So at that point, I decided to wash my hands of the Democratic Party. They no longer resonated with me because of how I saw them moving through reality. So that was great. Washed my hands, moved on with my life, right? Joe Biden got elected. It is what it is. So the next step to this awakening happened when George Floyd was murdered, right? And I made a video about that. It's called George Floyd and the Light Warriors. You could go back and watch that episode. I'm not going to get into that today. So, but it was a trigger point in my mind, and I realized that there was someone above us that was trying to manipulate us into starting this racial war, into really clashing with other human beings, and forgetting, they were leading us to forget the fact that we are all human beings. And if you've already gone through a spiritual awakening, you know and understand that we are all deeply connected. So what is this force that's trying to tear us apart? and why are they trying to tear us apart? So, recently, another trigger point in this awakening to the corruption and the misguidance and the false information was the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. So, I've heard lots of stories, because I briefly scan through news articles and I hear my family speak about what's going on. And it was my perception that this kid, opened fire at a Black Lives Matter riot. He was a racist, and he was just out to kill a bunch of people because he, was a Trump supporter, and Trump supporters are bad, right? This is the story. At this point, I'd learned not to pass judgment because of everything that I'd seen during the race for the 2020 candidacy, right? So, but this was what I was hearing, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to watch the trial. I'm going to see for myself, because that's what I've taught myself to do. I'm going to watch the trial, and I'm going to watch it from beginning to end, and I'm going to see for myself and decide for myself what is true. But I kind of expected to go in and see this kid opening fire, taking people out, right? I was greatly surprised to see the complete opposite of that. What I saw, and I encourage everyone who is upset about the not guilty verdict to go back and watch the whole entire trial. Because I am here to tell you that what the media has portrayed, yet again, were a bunch of lies. Now, I want to let it be known, so we're gonna shift focus for just a second. I want to let it be known that I do believe that racism exists, right? You've got one side saying racism does not exist, it's not a thing. You've got the other side saying it's ruling the world. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's somewhere in the middle, right? I'd never heard anyone drop the N-word until I moved to Florida. And then I heard it for the first time, and I was like, oh, what's going to happen? That guy's going to die. Well, nobody did anything, nobody really cared. Okay. I was a little taken aback, right? I was scared to go certain places because, people who resembled or represented the South would kind of gravitate to certain places, country bars and things of that nature. I was terrified. And growing up in high school, I dated different people whose parents were really racist towards me, not just because the color of my skin, but because of my sexual orientation. So I did experience that. However, once I kind of let go of the fear, I started going to these country bars and I started connecting with these people. And what I realized in the midst of all of this is that they're just as afraid of us as we are of them. And it's that fear that this person might be racist that really makes people racist. Like, I know so many people who, have dark skin, and they're so afraid of the white man because all the white people are racist, but it creates this hatred within them. And then they dish this hatred out, and then vice versa. So I just wanted to touch on that for a second, but to redirect back to the point in this video, this second awakening that humanity is kind of going through now, and what triggered it for me. I started watching this Kyle Rittenhouse trial, expecting to see what I've already told you I expected to see. What I saw was very different. I saw a kid, a child, who wanted to be a hero, right? So this child, and I'm going to brief you guys on this because I understand that many of you go full in with the media and you don't really have time to watch a 2-week-long trial, okay? I get it. So this child wanted to be a hero. He was in an EMT cadet program, and him and his buddy went to downtown Kenosha, which is where everything happened, and they were helping clean graffiti off of the high school that one of them attended, right? And as they were passing through, kind of looking at the damage from all of the riots that had been happening, they were asked by a business owner to help them protect their business. So, would I have done that? No, I probably would have kept my ass at home where I belong, regardless of what side I'm on. Sounds like a good idea, sounds like a safe place to be, so that's what I do. But he decided to take this guy up on his offer. I think there was money involved, right? So the kid shows up, and he's got his EMT bag, and he's got his AR-15, along with all the other people that had their AR-15s, and they're standing at this business. And you see the protesters moving through, and kind of dishing hatred at these Proud Boys, right? These men had been labeled racist because they were white. So if you're white, you're a racist automatically, right? If you are trying to prevent someone from burning down the town that you love and work in, you're a racist, right? So, and mind you, one of the first lies that I became aware of that the media told is that this child crossed state lines with an illegal weapon. That was false information. He lived in Wisconsin, or in Illinois, and he crossed the border to Wisconsin, but not with his gun. He worked in Wisconsin. He lived in Illinois, if I have that correctly. So his father lived over there too. So it's not like he just drove over there across state to go blow people's heads off, right? That became clear during the testimony and during the evidence that was presented in the trial. Now, so you got rioters moving through, yelling, screaming profanities, dropping the N-word. One of them at some point threw like a smoke bomb at this crowd of white men who were protecting this building with their AR-15s, and this child with his EMT bag and his AR-15. So at one point in all of these videos, everything's documented. You can watch it all on video. This child gets separated from his adult group, right? That was another thing. They said it was illegal for him to hold a weapon. In the state of Wisconsin, it's not illegal for a child to be armed as long as they're in the presence of an adult, is my understanding of it. So that's why that charge got dropped. People think that charge got dropped because the judge was a racist. What? So, anyhow, the child got separated from his group, and there was this very aggressive man named Rosenbaum, last name. He was very aggressive. There's all these pictures of him trying to fight people. There's pictures of him, there's videos of him, I'm sorry, dropping the N-word. He's at a Black Lives Matter protest, and he's dropping the N-words. He's a white male, right? Come to find out, he was released from prison recently for sexual assault on children. So I think the children were boys between the age of 9 and 11, and he got 12 charges for raping these children. So it was interesting to me that this pedophile decided to go after a child, the only child that was in the group. He was 17, still a child. So I think he throws something at him. You see that in the video. It ends up being a bag. Nobody knows what was in the bag. The kid is running away from this pedophile, this rioter, right? I know those are trigger words, and I'm sorry if they cause an emotional response, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for, because I want you to use that fuel to do some research and to watch the trial and decide for yourself, right? Because remember, going into this, I felt the same way you did. So the child's running from the criminal, and the criminal's chasing him, threatening to kill him. Videos of all this. At some point, you know, the kid has to shoot the man, because the man is lunging at him, about to grab his gun. The kid fires in self-defense. Okay? Noted. Check. Got it. I saw it with my own two eyes. It was very different from what the media was portraying. So, the kid is now terrified. He just shot someone. The crowd starts moving in on him. Get him! Get him! Kill him! Kill him! He just shot someone! He just shot someone! So the kid takes off running away towards the police. And he gets stopped by a paramedic, who in an earlier video was also bashing this group of white men. I think calling them stooges and, you know, go the fuck home. Pardon my French. We've got this. Whatever. So he runs into this paramedic, and this paramedic asks him, "Did you shoot someone?" And this child Kyle Rittenhouse. He says, I had to shoot them in self-defense. I'm going to the police. And he continues to run on towards the police line, right? The police are a few blocks away. This kid's running towards the police to tell them to turn himself in for having to shoot someone. As he's running, the crowd starts throwing rocks at him, and a man runs up to him and hits him over the head with a skateboard, right? At this point, the kid falls to the ground, and he's on his butt when people continue to rush at him, screaming things like, kill him, get him, things of that nature. So he raises his rifle, and he shoots the guy with the skateboard that's already hit him over the head once or twice, can't really remember. That's why you should go back and watch it. Don't take my word for any of this. Go back and watch the trial. He ends up shooting the guy that's beating him over the head with a skateboard. There's another guy that jumps in the air, tries to kick him in the face. I don't remember if he made contact or not. He goes to shoot that guy, misses. The third person to come up on the child was that paramedic who, a few blocks back, he told him, I'm going to the police, I'm going to the police. So at first the paramedic stops, puts his hands up. The kid lowers his gun. Everyone who was running at this child and then put their hands up, the child lowered the gun. He didn't shoot anyone who was not actively attacking him. And then the paramedic, I don't understand what went through his mind or what happened, but he went from being like this to being like this. Because he also had a firearm that was not, that firearm was actually not legal for him to have because he had it concealed, and his concealed was expired. Okay, so this guy comes in with his gun pointed at the kid shoots him in the arm. This guy also had a history of violence. I don't want to get the two cases confused, but between him and the guy that had the skateboard, died that day, and the paramedic survived. Between the two of them, one of them had battery charges against women, battery charges against elderly women. One of them had breaking and entering, lots of violence. So my point in expressing this is to express the fact that a lot of the people who were there protesting were literally violent criminals. And I know people don't like to hear that because they think that you're like, I don't know, profiling people or judging them based off of their past. But if you have a history of violence and you're at a protest that turns into a riot and then you're seen on video attacking a child, it's hard not to look at the whole picture of the history, right? So that's what I saw. And when the verdict was read that they found this child not guilty, I broke down in tears. Because I was so sure that the media had twisted this case so much that this little boy, 18 now, still a little boy in my eyes, was going to lose his whole entire life. Why? Because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why? Because he wanted to be a hero. But not necessarily because he was a hateful racist who was an active shooter. I grew up in Colorado. I'm sure many of you know that. So I was around when Columbine happened, right? Which was like the first major school shooting, anyway, in my lifetime. I was around for that. And I've seen many active shooters. You know, we've heard stories of many about active shooters since then. And there's one thing about active shooters that we have to take note of. They don't discriminate on who their targets are. It's open season on everyone. This child, you'll see in the trial, he just opened fire when I feel as if he had no other choice because he was going to lose his life. So these are the things that are going to trigger this awakening within you. And you have to really be willing to let go of all of the things that you once thought were true. This goes with everything from COVID to Black Lives Matter to protests, all of it. There is something else going on. These higher ups, and I do believe that both sides, Democrat and Republican, are being controlled by the same entity, whoever or whatever that may be. And I do believe that their purpose is to keep us in opposition, okay? So we have to start waking up to all of the lies that have been told so that we can come up and out of this demented, ugly, hateful reality that we live in. And I want you to think for a moment about when was the last time that you saw a positive news story, or how often do you see positive stories on the news? In the last video that I shared with you guys, it was all about opening the heart space and about how we can use that energy to connect to each other and to assist humanity in moving into a lighter, brighter space. How do we do that when we are constantly tuning in to lower vibrational frequencies? Everything that comes through the television is a frequency. Everything that comes through your phone is a frequency. Ask yourself, is this love or is this the opposite? Is this something that I want to be affecting my being? Is this something that I want to be affecting my perspective? Is this true? You don't have to believe anything I've said in this video. All that I'm asking you to do is be open to making your own decision on what is true and what is not. Do not believe it because you saw it in an article. Do not believe it because you saw it on the news or on a TV show. Believe it because you know it in your heart, because you've seen it with your own two eyes. I love you guys so much. I was really hesitant on shooting this video. They've been asking me to do it since the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict was read. By they, I'm talking about my spirit guides. I don't like controversy. I'm a very peaceful person, and I would like to keep it that way. But sometimes we've got to do what we've got to do. So, with that being said, I love you guys so, so much. Namaste.